Hey, Maureen.
Hi, Linden. So very
Here we
exciting.
are. Yeah, how you doing? So I've got a few questions for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, standing for the presidency of Equity once again.
Yeah.
So first question, a lot of people know who you are already, but for those who don't, who are you, what are you about, and what's been your journey within the industry so far?
Gosh, yeah, that's an excellent question because, of course, yeah, people don't know me. I am an actress and sometime director. I got my equity card when you had to be a member in order to be a member of the profession, or in the industry, and be an equity member. So I got that by doing comedy feed work at a variety season at Perth Rep. And then I did 3 years at the College of Drama in Glasgow, which is now the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, very posh. And then I graduated in 1974, so I've been around for a very, very, very long time. My father's a variety performer, not really, he's 93 now, really just recently retired. He went back into straight acting in his later years. In terms of equity, I have been I sort of formalized, my activism was formalized 6 years ago when I stood for council and I became a councillor on the general list. And then I was asked to stand for vice president. So I stood for vice president and became a vice president. Those are positions, as you know, Linden, but maybe some other people don't, which is in the gift of the council. It's a vote of all the council who's going to be vice presidents. It's not that's not the gift of the whole membership. And then I stood for president. So it's been pretty quick, sort of learning spiral rather than a learning curve, and learning all the time, really. And here we are. I'm sure you're going to ask me about this as well, of course, vital questions. I mean, what a time in equity's history we're at now. And we've got, the council elections, the president election, the general secretary election. We've got COVID-19. We've got a massive crisis in our industry. We've got the massive chasm that has, appeared between ourselves and our Black and ethnic minority members, and that's big. We've got such a lot of work to do to heal those wounds, I hope I get to be president again so that I can, take the lessons I've learned forward and try and do some of that work, really.
Yeah. So on that, I guess, what are some of your biggest learning points from being president for the past 2 years?
One of the things about being president is that there is no definition of what you do. I mean, I know it's extraordinary because I was sort of thought, somebody said that to me, said, what exactly does the president do? And I was like, well, and I was able to tell them what I did. But and then I looked and actually I spoke to a couple of the other candidates for, and they said, no, I don't know what it is either. Somebody defined it as the General Secretary's job was to lead the staff and the President's job was to lead the members. I think one of the things an awful lot of people don't know when I speak to them is these positions, your position, Linden, on council, I know you're not standing again, but, and my position as president, all the vice presidents, the people who serve in committees, nobody's paid. You get your expenses, and people are like that. What? But for me, that is an incredibly important part of the position. Is that it is an activist who is walking in parallel with the paid members of staff, and the two coming together is a really important. It is a very, very dynamic energy when we get it right. I would say. In terms of the lessons I've learned, so my definition, apart from obviously, when you stand for council or president, you have to sign a form which says that if you are chosen, if the vote goes your way, that you will abide by the laws of the rules of the union, abide by the laws of the land, obviously, and that you will treat people with respect. The things you might imagine, but that's very open-ended. It doesn't really tell you very much. My view of the presidency, and increasingly so over the past 2 years, is that it's a bridge. You're a bridge between the members and the staff. And when the OSMT, for those who don't know, that's the officers and senior management team. So that's Christine Payne, the General Secretary, the two assistant generals, well, one assistant general secretary and the deputy for the General Secretary, and then the honorary treasurer, the president, and the 2 vice presidents. That's the OSMT meeting, and it's been really amazing to gradually find my own voice in that group, and my own right to go, I disagree with what you're saying. I think that's, I mean, I'm not saying that happens a lot. More often it would be that something was suggested by staff, and myself and the other vice presidents would go, can we just look at that and maybe alter it a little and make it more member friendly? Because we've got the eye on what's going forward, what the members would want to see, how the members would want to see that put forward, as opposed to staff, because they're working incredibly hard and have us our best interests at heart, but they are not out there as we are, you know. So I think that, so to answer your question, which is about what are my priorities, I mean, the things that have most gripped me in the past 2 years, and the things that are now going to be even more important as we tackle getting back to work under COVID, and there's been a lot of talk about this, so I'm not the only one who's thinking this, is that the battles we have fought for all of our minority groups, we must not let those slide back, because we have made real, I believe, real progress in the casting of people from our minority groups, and also in when it is physically possible, you know, people working in stage management, people directors, all the professions that we cover. So that is something that I have had my eyes open to what it must be like to not be able-bodied, you know, to not be, to have your full hearing spectrum, to be, have your sight compromised, whatever it might be, and also the hidden disabilities that, you know, you don't see when somebody walks past you in the street, what it is like to be Black or a member of the ethnic, and I mean, goodness, that's with the ghastly George Floyd. I mean, gosh in heaven, you know. And as I said in a tweet, you know, I hope that that's the beginning, that marks the beginning of the end, that's the beginning of something brand new that we can do. So that those are the things that I've become very, very conscious of, and I would hope to take on in the future as we battle this, you know, return to work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you've touched on some of the challenges that you faced over the time in your term. What are some of the achievements that you think you've had over the time? Because to echo one of the things you said about us being volunteers, I absolutely agree with that. And there's been loads of times when I've taken time off work, specifically to attend meetings and to benefit the industry and the union. And that largely goes unseen, I think, a lot of the time. So there are always things that we need to do and address, but what are some of the achievements that you think you've achieved over your term so far?
Well, I think that my main sort of thing that is my real baby, and well, it is the Safe Spaces campaign and the agenda for change. I think that has made a real difference. It hasn't made as much of a difference as I would like it to have done, because these things are not, this bullying and harassing behaviour is not something that goes away overnight. But I believe, I speak to people say to me, it's really made a difference, but we have further to go. And one of my, if you like, my disappointments is that because of COVID coming along, we had to shelve, my next step with that was Safe Spaces Next Steps. Wanted to look at put the people together again, the group that we had, ask the members, how do you feel now? Has your experience of bullying and harassment improved? Are you more likely to phone up? Do you feel empowered? All those questions that we would ask, and that was absolutely tabled, and we were about to set that going, and there just wasn't the time. We just have to, you know, people's health, safety, the making sure that people, you know, the benevolent fund, putting £1 million into the benevolent fund and making sure people who are right at the edge of coping have got that financial help. Also, of course, our mental health. I'm very proud of my backing of the way we went forward with the mental health initiative, which is now, as you know, Linden, 24/7. And we've poured more money into that as well, because people are really using that. People are really using that service, and that's just great, because, you know, people are in a terrible state. You know, they're very, very fragile. So that they go along together. You know, the safe spaces and the looking after people's mental health. It's all, you know, so many things are interconnected, aren't they? So that's I feel very proud of that, and I, you know, whatever happens, I would hope to be part of that going forward. And I know that we're going to bring it to, or it is going to be brought to the first council of the new council in July to say, do we have your ratification? Can we go on with that? Whoever it is that's doing it, that will go forward. The other thing that I feel very pleased about is I was really kind of the stage every January, I think it's in January, is it December? One or the other, turn of the year, publishes the 100 movers and shakers in theatre, in the theatrical industry. And Equity, in the 10 years or whatever it was, had never been on it. Now, that's not because Equity didn't deserve to be on it. Equity did deserve to be on it, because let's face it, 48,000, the biggest entertainment workers union in the UK, you know, we working away like mad behind the scenes, just getting on with the real nitty gritty work. So one of my things was quietly to myself was, I want us on that. It wasn't necessarily that I wanted myself on it. I wanted somebody on it. I wanted just Equity on it, or I wanted Christine Payne to be on it. Because that would mean that people were going, oh, Equity. Oh, what are they doing? Because I believe in the power of advertising, and I believe that if the world in general knows that you exist and know that you have a voice, and people come and go, what are you saying, Equity? What do you think, President? What do you think, General Secretary? Then it gives you an extra power, the power of advertising. So I'm very pleased to say in the 2 years of my presidency, I have been in the 70s of that list. And that pleases me, because I'm not there as Maureen Beattie, actress, you know, lovely person. I'm there because I'm the president of Equity. I am the sort of physical embodiment of Equity, if you like. So I was really, really pleased about that. And the other thing, of course, is just trying to beef up the communication. We've got more communications within the Equity structures now, more committees talking to each other, more chairs meeting up more often, more branches linking up. That's really important as well. We need more of that. And I'm pleased with that as well. But I mean, these are all things that, you know, can be taken and improved upon.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you've mentioned already that the future for the industry and for the union is going to be quite challenging in a lot of different ways. What's your vision for the union within the sort of changing circumstances, and what are some of the challenges you might see and some of the solutions you think for those challenges?
Well, I think that we're all going to have to, I was about to say take a hit, but only if everybody takes a hit. Mm. You know, I think there will be times when there are going to be theatres. I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, we know that EastEnders are back already. Is EastEnders? No, Corrie's back already. Yeah. EastEnders is going back. I've just been reading about the American deals that they're doing with the film studios and television studios, and the things that they're putting in place so that people can go back to work. So that, of course, is much easier. Audio is much easier. More and more of our members are, you know, are building home studios under the stairs in their homes, you know, and buying a microphone and doing great work from there, and all that. But of course, it's live entertainment, getting a big group of people together to watch people. So it's about the audiences. When can we get them in? And it's about when can we perform again safely. We rely massively on the people who are the producers and the government funders, the Arts Council, to look after us and recognise the fact that we are an industry which brings in 115 billion quid into the economy in the last year. I mean, that's a lot of dosh. And Sonia Friedman's article, which I'm sure many people read in the Telegraph, when she said 5 billion quid into the West End brought by theatre alone.
We're going through challenging times as an industry and as a union. What are some of the challenges that you foresee going forward, and what are some of the solutions you think for those challenges?
Well, of course, we are absolutely bound by, aren't we, when this terrible virus, well, either there's an antidote found, a vaccine found, or we believe it's gone low enough in this R number for us to start being safe again. I think that in terms of how we get support, financial support, absolutely massively important, because this idiotic legend that you've got to suffer for your art, well, balls to that, if I can say that. Nonsense. You don't do your best work when you're starving. You do your best work when your belly's full and you're not having to think about anything other than your art.
Yeah.
So we have got to go to the government, and we are going to the government, and it's really great. And I'm very pleased to say that Christine Payne is on that task force that's been put together by by Oliver Dowden, the culture minister. He is, she's got herself onto that task force, not the main group of people, but the one dealing with our industry, and that is really great to be there. She's also got herself onto various groups talking directly to the Chancellor, which is also incredibly important. And we were very, very much behind, the self-employed help, and which is also, as we know now, being ended to August. So that's fundamental. Financial help is fundamental. We have to lobby the Arts Council, get money from them. We're obviously the Ben Fund, incredibly important, helping people to step back from, penury, real penury, wherever possible. So that's the sort of financial side of it. But it's also talking to a government which really does seem to understand more than anything else what things are worth in terms of pounds, shillings, and pence, as we used to say. And the theatre industry is worth £115 billion a year. The arts are worth that. More people go to the theatre than go to see Premier League football matches. As Sonia Friedman said in a recent article in the Telegraph, she said, £5 billion a year brought into London's West End by theatre alone. That's the shops, the cafes, the taxis, the hotels, the economy, people coming in from when they can again, they come in because theatre, we are still regarded as the best theatre in the world. That is still true. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of the reasons for that is because of what was our fabulous repertory system. And one of the things I think we've absolutely got to do is we've got to go back, we've got to reinstate that. These hubs of excellence where people coming into the industry in all the different disciplines learn their craft and work their way up and watched people who knew what they were doing, who had the skills and who had got to sometimes the peak of their profession, working with them on great text, doing new work, the people around getting to know them, it being a hub, it being a place where people could meet. Increasingly, theatres are about that. Pitlochry, in the Highlands, in Perthshire Highlands, right down to the theatres, on the south coast of England, in Wales, in Scotland, as I say, and in Ireland. All of these places are just so vital to the health of communities, and we've got to get that message out so that overall the argument is of how important we are to the mental health, the physical health, the spiritual health of the nation and these communities. And then we start to look at practical steps. How do we do it? How do we put measures in that mean that people can sit in an auditorium and can watch a play? What kind of plays do you put on? There's things like opera singers. If in order not to be touched by the spray, the invisible spray coming out of an opera singer's mouth, I can't remember what it was now, but it was like yards and yards and yards, tens of yards. You had to be away from them. So of course, because that's what you do when you're an opera singer. Dancers, what's going to happen to clubs and pubs where our variety performers work? We've got to work out ways to do that. I don't have the answers to that. That's not my expert area, but we've got to get behind all the different, and we're hearing all the time, aren't we, about shops saying we'll put this measure in place, that measure. And I don't see any reason why we can't use those measures as well, but find sort of like a different way to do it. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe we will have to have a fourth wall back, but it'll be made of, perspex for a bit, and we'll be performing behind. And I don't know. Maybe we'll have pods of performers and companies, you know, perform like the, Pina Bausch company, who basically just are a family unit. So maybe there'll be things like that, you know, when maybe we can learn from the television companies, the film companies, how are they doing it? Can we use that? But it goes right back fundamentally about this. You'll have seen the amazing image of the Berliner Ensemble Theatre, where they have been told by the government, yes, you can reopen, but you must remove these seats. So there's a fabulous picture of the stalls of that theatre, where there's like, you know, if you're a family of 4 and you've been isolating together, you can all sit together. And then there's various seats singly, but they're all 2 meters apart. They can afford to do that because German government funds the theatres and the arts and the entertainment industry, which, of course, our governments over the long period of time have gradually whittled away at that. And I think there's a big lesson to be learned.
Yeah, absolutely. And to echo what you said, I think you said that you don't have all the answers, but I think that's normal. I don't think anyone has all of the answers. Yeah. And ultimately, it's about us engaging in the discussions with the right people to come to the right conclusions. And also, I think managing expectations in terms of there's a lot that we can do as a union, and there's stuff that we should be doing, but we're not the government, and we can't just make changes just like that. So I do feel sometimes that people are disappointed with outcomes that actually we can influence, but we can't actively, definitively change ourselves.
I agree, Linden, with that. I think that's exactly right. And something I didn't say there, which just sort of, forgive me going back a little bit, but you know, I suspect that we're going to have to, all of us, maybe take a bit of a hit for a while. And not in every way, not in every contract that we sign, not in every job that we do. But I think sometimes if there's a small company struggling to get back on, who have been wonderfully coming to us and going, well, right, we're ready, we can be on an equity contract. I mean, these small companies that have been so determined to do that, raising that money so they can pay our members properly, and then they're hit by this, but they want to come back, then maybe we all of us have to go, okay, yeah, what can you afford? You know, when it's genuine, if we can come back, if we can do this, and this, and then we go. So we all get together and we band together to get started, get the thing running again, and then we go back to what the better terms and conditions we had. I mean, as personally, I am prepared. I am thinking that that's, if I was asked to do that and I thought it was genuine, I'd be up for that. Absolutely.
Cool, brilliant. As a wider question, what would you say to equity members as to why they should be a member? It's a question that happens or comes up for a lot of people. You know, why should I be a member of equity? And especially now these times as well, why should somebody be a general member of equity?
It starts right at the beginning, and now we've got student members and graduate members who then, if they want to become full members, it's about, for me, you can talk, of course, about the amazing insurance policy. You can talk about the fact that if something happens to you at your work, and that includes from the moment I step out of my home or wherever I'm staying to the moment I step back into that after my day's work, I am insured by equity. And if I have anything happens to me, I can go to equity and they will fight my cause for me, and they will do, well, their results have been very good. That's worth its weight in gold. I mean, and most of our members, the vast majority of our members, pay an amount of money which is equivalent to a nice coffee every week. So we're not talking vast amounts of money, and it's money really, really well spent. I get very itchy about people who are not members of equity but who are members of BECS, which was set up by equity members' money. Set BECS up, the British Equity Collection Society, which has paid out millions and millions of pounds to members, and they use that, and they the incredible equity pension scheme, which is, who would ever have thought we'd be able to have a pension scheme, but we do, which has paid members a lot of money, and it's just great. You don't have to be a member of the pension scheme. That drives me mad. But overall, you either believe in collective activism or you don't. You believe in the power of the community to liberate and enhance the lives of the individual. And if you believe that, which I believe passionately, then you join Equity, because at times of crisis, we keep hearing this thing of, isn't it marvelous? It's like the war, when we, people like my father and older people who went through the Second World War saying, this is like the war, everybody's so nice, you're saying hello to people in the street, neighbors are helping one another, and like that. It's exactly the same thing. It's collective. It's about people getting together and feeling that you are not alone, and that you can absolutely phone that those staff members, and you can speak to your fellow Equity members and say, what's going on? You are automatically a member of a big supportive family, and that is priceless, absolutely priceless. And now is oddly the time to join the union, because we are fighting for your rights. And as we go to the government and say, give us some more of your dosh, look at how much we bring in, are you going to keep this thing going? The more of us we have at our back to go, look, we're a bigger union now than we've ever been, even in the days of having to be a member to join Equity. We're a bigger union, 48,000 of us, and hopefully growing still. That's really powerful when you take. We're the 9th largest union in the UK.
Cool, brilliant. Last question I'll ask, because we're coming up to about half an hour now. You've already said like a lot of this, answered it quite a lot. But just to wrap it up. You're standing again for the presidency. Why should people vote for Maureen Beattie?
Well, if you think I tell the truth, I'm not suggesting for a moment that my fellow candidates do not tell the truth, but I would say this is something that I am genuine in my passion to hear the members, to be available to the members, to do everything I can to see that their needs and wants and worries are conveyed to the top table of the union and are taken forward wherever possible. And that I am, for all the fact that I'm president, I'm a member who works and comes across the same problems as you do when I work. Not always. Sometimes there's great bosses and you go, could you just tell everybody else how to do it? But when I do, I'm one of you, and I am, and I think that's really important.
Cool. Good stuff. Anything else you want to add, Chuck in?
No, it's been a great pleasure. Very nice to see you, Linden.
Yeah, you too. I wish you were in person, but...
I know. Yeah, you too. You too. But hey, all the best.
Cool. Pleasure. Take care.
Take care.